Great. Well, welcome everyone. Uh, Allison Bruzelhoff, Executive Director, been here just over 10 years. Very excited to always, as much as I can, be able to welcome everyone to our virtual volunteer gatherings. This one I think is super exciting because we have two of our wonderful volunteers presenting tonight. We've had volunteers present in the past, but I always think it's really meaningful to have volunteers talk about what they care about, what they love about the Rancho. And I think it's really great that we have Donald and Larry here to talk tonight. Couple really quick things before I turn it over to these two wonderful men. If you guys don't know, we have a new logo. It is slowly rolling out. It represents the land that was 27,000 acres of Rancho Los Cerritos. It has a more modern look, but it keeps the historical perspective of the rancho. So you'll see that slowly coming out over the next month. And Alana's going to talk a little bit about it later on. We are definitely including our volunteers more in our exhibit brainstorming. So she's going to talk about our 2027 exhibit theme, which is about food. We also are continuing on in our progress with the permanent exhibit. And for those that don't know, is yay for Rancho Los Cerritos, the lower visitor center has been repaired. Ah, so the elevator works. We have working restrooms. Who knew that could be so exciting? And we are bringing in some construction people to help us modify what that space looks like. So if you've been involved in the permanent exhibit brainstorming sessions, please know they will start resuming because we want to get that up hopefully by the end of the year. I know we talked about end of first quarter, but things went a little wonky on December 5th. So we're getting back on track. We have our next exhibit and then our 2028 exhibit, which I know it seems like it's far off. It's not that far. It will be about women in Olympics in general. And so we'll start talking about that as we get into the last half of 2026. But right now with exhibits, I want to turn it over to Alana to talk about her next exhibit. And then for everyone to be very excited to talk about, well, I'm calling it a Wonderland of Insects. I don't think that's quite the exact title, but I think it's pretty cool. So yay, thank you, Donald and Larry, for putting this together. Turning it over to Alana now.
Thanks, Allison. So as has been mentioned, as you might have seen come through your logistics mail, we are looking ahead to 2027 and the exhibition that we'll have once our current exhibition closes. And we wanted to kind of celebrate Long Beach because it will be the 130th anniversary of Long Beach being incorporated. So thinking about like Long Beach through the lens of food, both presently and historically. So thinking about the foodways at Rancho Los Cerritos, but then also thinking about the modern city of Long Beach, what used to be Rancho Los Cerritos when we're thinking about those 27,000 acres that are now reflected in the logo, and just what food has meant, how food is connected to cultural preservation, to the formation of memories, food security and food insecurity, growing your own foods. And we have our ideas about what that exhibition will look like, but we also want to make sure that we're reaching out to our community because we want this to be an exhibition that is about Long Beach, but also created along with Long Beach. So we have the food questionnaire, so it should have been emailed out. If you didn't receive it, you can reach out to me or Laura. We can make sure that gets to you. So it should take, it has several questions, so a few minutes to fill out, depending how long you want to think about it before you start typing. But they're really just kind of short responses to a few prompts about sort of what food means to you, what it has meant to you growing up, memories that you have, etc. So we're really looking forward to collecting as many food stories as we possibly can, especially from across all of Long Beach. And so we're looking to our volunteers to help with that. And then thank you to those who participated in a brainstorming session this morning. If you do want to chat further and weren't able to be in that brainstorming session, you can also reach out to me. I'd love to get your input on that. And then with our current exhibition, Seeds of Resilience Barrio Americano, we do have a program coming up this coming weekend called Cocina del Barrio. So that is like kitchen of the barrio, and it's delving into Mexican culinary traditions. And we're going to be using the comal that was built, I think last year. So at our volunteer gatherings, we've, made the capirotada in the horno, which is one thing that we've built that's been there for a while. Now we're kind of activating that comal again, and there will be some hands-on elements to that. And there are there's volunteer discounts, but there's also member discounts for that if you are a member. So check that out. It is on our website. And then if you have questions about volunteer discounts, you can ask Laura. Membership discounts, you can ask Lourdes. And I think that's about it. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to me about either of those topics. So I think that's it for me, and I'll turn it over to Laura.
Thank you, Alana. I am so excited that we have these two. When I watch them giving garden tours, people are just excited to see all the bugs that they find and showing them the different life stages. And it wasn't even my idea. Somebody else on the volunteer council is like, we have this wonderful resource. Let's see if we can get them to do a presentation. So I just want to say how excited I am, and this is going to be such a great resource for us to have on our website. There are quite a few people here, but I bet you in the next few days, there'll be a lot more looking at this. So without further ado, I want to turn it back over to Donald Specker and Larry Shaw, our resident entomologists, to take us through the wonderland of insects that RLC is.
Okay, we're live. So we wanted to thank you for allowing us to share our passion about insects with the group. It's a real honor and opportunity.
And we're very excited. It's something that we have certainly noticed while giving garden tours, that a lot of insects and a lot of nature at the Rancho. So it's great to share the insect world.
So when we were putting this together, there was a lot of political talk, and the word transparency came up a lot. So Larry insisted that we include a few slides to start. First, a disclaimer. Your presenters are not normal.
We're entomologists.
We are entomologists, the tiniest fraction of the population with lifelong love of all insects. More typical reaction would be this amongst the public. Next slide. In fact, there's a rich group of insect monster films that came out, and they continue to come out. They were really kickstarted in the 1950s when they coupled the fear of atomic radiation with the fear of insects. So now we have these giant insects arising from radiation exposure. Upper left is them. Upper left is them, giant ants coming out of New Mexico from nuclear testing. The final scene of the movie is set in LA, the final battle between the ants and civilization. Mothra in the middle, same, atomic testing on an island in the Pacific. So yeah, a rich group. Next slide. And it's ongoing. There's actually an annual Insect Fear Film Festival. And yeah, it remains a fertile theme for filmmakers. Go ahead. I tried to find monster movies about butterflies, but I didn't see any. So I think most people adore the beauty of butterflies. Soon after coming to the Rancho, I photographed this Gulf fritillary. Very beautiful. I noticed a lot of butterflies, a lot of different species. Next slide. More importantly, I noticed that our visitors were noticing butterflies. And I thought it would be great to have a resource for them to use to just give them a one-page quick guide to the butterflies that we encounter commonly. I was in the middle of my California Naturalist certification course and had to choose a few projects. And one of them that I chose was to put together the butterfly sheet that we utilize. We picked 10 species of butterflies. Larry helped, Randy Harwood, our birder naturalist guy, Kim Moore, some other people helped put this together, and it's a nice resource to have. But again, we had to limit it to 10. Here's visitor, 3 generations, her mother and son on the native garden trail utilizing this resource.
We have beautiful butterflies just naturally occurring in the gardens. Here's just 4 of the more common ones. Top left, mourning cloak butterfly. Of course, the umber skipper, top right, bottom left, the western tiger swallowtail, and the red admiral butterfly. We have a total of 21 species of butterflies that we've observed in the gardens. And they're seasonal. Some are more common certain times of the year, but some can be found pretty much 9 months out of the year. Next.
Yeah, RLC plants. So they're obviously the basis of our garden tours. We have a great botanical garden. Instead of just looking at plants, we started to get closer to some of them to assess their texture and scent. Actually, in botany classes, you do that to facilitate identification. But it also allows us to bring visitors that maybe are compromised in different areas that can come up and touch and smell different things that we have there. They're also big hubs of insect activity. So I think we're going to highlight 3 major plants that a lot of insect activity circulates around.
So the first we'll discuss is the popcorn senna. We have 3 of these plants just outside the gates to take us into the inner courtyard. Okay. Of course, this is the plant, very recognizable. They're not native to here, but we do have some species that are native in our deserts all the way into Mexico, but this is a native of Africa. And we like to bring people to it because the seed pods, you rub them, you smell your fingers afterwards. It smells like popcorn or corn nuts, people say, but it's amazing. People just love this. And in doing so, it brings us close to the plant and we start to notice other insects or insects on these plants. And the common one, we have the yellow butterflies, the cloudless sulfur that fly all over them. And the females are stopping, laying eggs, and these caterpillars are developing on them. Next. So on this flower bud, you might be able to see a tiny insect, and we'll bring that up in our next slide. And there it is. So this egg, we can tell it's already a little yellow. So it has been laid 3 or 4 days ago. When they're first laid, they're white, and then they age. And after about 7 days of setting there, they'll emerge as a first instar there, the smallest of the caterpillars. Now, if the female lays it on the green foliage, the butterfly will be green.
Yeah.
The caterpillar. So next slide. And this is an adult sitting, resting, not nectaring, not laying an egg, but just resting on the plant. And it's kind of a meetup spot for the males and females. The males will be searching over the plants for females that are on the plants. And also, this is probably a freshly emerged adult. They'll make their chrysalis, their quiescent stage of the butterfly going from larval form into adult form. They'll emerge and they'll rest on the plant before flying. Next. We have other visitors, these pollinators, the valley carpenter bee. This is a female. She'll go in, she'll get nectar, she collects pollen. You can see it on her leg and on the top of her thorax. Then she'll carry this to the nest. They have the male carpenter bee. This is the same species, the valley carpenter bee, but the male is orange. And I could carefully hold it or let it be on my finger, and it can't sting. It does not have a stinger like the female. So you can impress your friends and hold one. Next. Other animals, or we say the insects are animals, but this red flame skimmer dragonfly, and they'll breed at the inner courtyard pond. We've seen females depositing eggs in the pond before. The naiads will develop there. The adults come out. This happens to be a male, resting, looking. They have great eyesight. They're excellent flyers, and they look for insects that pass by or happen to land on a flower. And interestingly, just to the left of that lower wing of the dragonfly, you can see a caterpillar, one of the Senna sulfur or cloudless sulfur caterpillars feeding on the blossom there, going unnoticed by this dragonfly. Other insects, the praying mantis will hang out there. They're great predators, so they're looking for other insects coming to the to nectar and to be on here, and they'll grab them. And I'll have a lot more to say about praying mantises as the program goes along. We have an insect we recently saw. It's the Stictica bug. It's a type of stink bug. I had never seen it before. So in doing a little research, they're a new insect that has come up from Mexico. They've only been in California since 2021. In Mexico, they're considered a delicacy. In fact, people will collect them and pan fry them. And so I'm always into trying new things. And Donald, try one of
This
these.
is for the food survey. Yep.
Food survey, and they're crunchy, kind of tasty, like a little cheesy. But anyway, these are interesting. We call them a bug. Not all insects are bugs. There's only one family or one order well, one family within the order, and that are really bugs. And this happens to be one of them, this pennatomid stink bug, Stictica. Next, please. Another type of bug, the large milkweed bug, is on milkweed. Now we've left the cassia plant or senna. And not only the monarch is attracted to this, and the caterpillar will only feed on this leaf. The same with this milkweed bug. They're only attracted to the milkweeds, and they tend to go after the seeds inside the seed pods of the milkweed plant.
So why is it colored like that?
So insects and other animals, if they're brightly colored, they're warning colors. If a bird happens to eat one of these, they'll get sick, and they'll remember, oh yeah, that brightly colored insect made me sick. I'm not going to eat another one. So maybe one will be sacrificed, but the rest of the population will benefit from that sacrifice. Next. And the harlequin bug. Top left is the nymphal stage with bugs. They tend to have, well, they do. They hatch and they look like small adults. And then in their final molts, then they have wings. This is feeding on bladder pod. It's in the center island outside the visitor center.
A California native. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, bronze fennel, which I think we've been calling it anise or anise a long time, but I think it's a different plant related. Bronze fennel, which is from the Mediterranean. We have plants from all over the world at the rancho. So people, I think, are aware of this. It's over in the herb garden. It's a fairly tall plant, very fine foliage. Next slide. On the very left, you'll see like a white remnant, maybe of a little tiny cocoon or something. And then there's like a bird dropping, black and white in the middle. And here we have a close-up, and the bird dropping is actually a caterpillar. It's one of the early stages of a very beautiful butterfly called the anise swallowtail. But in its earliest stages, it wants to look like a bird dropping, so to avoid predation. Next. As it develops, it changes into a radically different form. This is the same caterpillar. And then it has this warning coloration so that birds don't even try to eat it. The interesting thing with this is there are insects that are truly toxic or distasteful. And then there's a whole other group of insects that decided it would be advantageous to also look like them. So there are a lot of insects with warning coloration that in fact are tasty, but predators are afraid of the whole scheme. If this fails, they have one more, go ahead, one more defense. If you poke at them, they will exude these fleshy horns near the head, and they'll put out a stinky smell. So that's like the final defense that they have, and it's quite potent.
Chemical warfare at its best here.
Chemical warfare, yes. Go ahead. The same plant, I mean, all of this is that hub, that one bronze fennel. You can see the chrysalis, which was the next stage in the development, and a newly emerged adult anise swallowtail. Very beautiful. Next slide. This is another one over more by the private garden. Yeah, super beautiful, and we'll see these flying around the rancho. Each year I've been at the rancho, we've had these swallowtails. Another one we use is fragrant pitcher sage. This is another hub. This is one of the California natives. It's across from the open gates. It has a beautiful scent, so we get close to it to smell it. It has very soft, beautiful texture to the leaves. So we get very close to it. And when we started getting closer, it took entomologists to notice. Here we have bringing a group of people, volunteers in this case. Next slide. There's an insect with quite good camouflage, right dead center in the middle of the screen. There are nymphal grasshoppers. Some of them is almost impossible to detect. They blend in so well. There's one in the middle. Next slide. There's one here sitting on a stem. Some of these, I find them, I go over to get a visitor, someone else to come look at them, and they're so well camouflaged, it's hard to find them again. Go ahead. They continue developing, and here it is molting into a final stage, and it's radically different. Now they're gray and brown. They're really large. I think this one just emerged and is hanging out on the leaves where it's not particularly camouflaged. Next slide. But this one wised up and is sitting on a dead leaf, and it's pretty well camouflaged. These are good flyers. Next slide. You'll see them all over the place. I had one on my car window the other day. They're large, quite interesting, large grasshoppers, delicately held by an entomologist. Okay, next.
I'm going to talk about the Arizona mantis, which is the most common mantis that we have here in Southern California of the 5 or 6 species. This is a mantis interested in maybe becoming a volunteer. We see it up on the table outside the visitor center. They're ubiquitous everywhere, but they tend to hang out where they're going to be camouflaged, like this mantis here. And I can see it's a female. I see her abdomen hanging out. She's large. The female praying mantis is maybe 4 times the size of a male. The thing where after mating, sometimes the male is eaten is true. Sometimes during mating, the male's head is eaten off. Still continues to mate, but
and the camouflage, I guess, is to keep them from being eaten by birds.
That's true. Right.
And also, they ambush their prey that prey doesn't realize they're sitting there. So it has two purposes.
A couple other things about this beast is they're very powerful, they're very agile, and they have telescopic vision, the only insect to have it, at least the only insect we know so far to have it. And I read that engineers are looking at their telescopic eyes to maybe incorporate these into robots for, our own use. But it is amazing. They'll follow you. If you put your finger out in front of them, they'll follow you. And they're being so powerful that sometimes they'll hang out by a hummingbird feeder, and they can catch small hummingbirds and feed on them. This something where I found them on my hummingbird feeders at home and have had to move them to another side of the yard. Next. Sometimes you're working in the garden and you see this egg case referred to as an ootheca. And this ootheca is where the female will lay eggs. She produces a foamy substance. Think of putting some whipped cream on the top of your sundae. You're starting at the top and you're squirting it down and you're kind of layering it. Well, she's doing something similar. She's laying eggs in there, maybe up to 200 eggs, and it'll dry, become hardened. The young will stay in there sometimes over the winter months, or here in Southern California, they'll have a couple of different broods per year. They'll emerge and they'll have an enzyme to help eat through this material, which hardens up quite nicely for their protection. And you can see how this one is already hatched. We've already had several emerge from those openings there in the eggs. But they're not choosy where they lay them. You'll see them on bricks, on fences. This is in a shrub. And I believe this is in the inner courtyard on the New Zealand tea tree. Next. Just one on the wall. You just see them hanging around. They're pretty common.
Yeah, they have two color phases. One is green and one is gray brown.
Right. So, and interestingly, in the nymphal stages, they can change their color somewhat. As an adult, they're fixed. And they seem to learn quickly. Maybe if you have a brown one on something green or a green one on something brown, to move and get out of the way. Or maybe it's something innate within them. They're pretty amazing to observe. They have these raptorial forelegs. You can see it kind of in a praying fashion, and that's where they get their name, praying mantis. But they also have those spines, so they can grab an insect, then hold it in place, quickly bringing the head of the insect up to their mouth parts and biting it, and then they'll eat that insect that they have caught from the head down. Next. And this is going to our Senna, the cassia. And at the very top, we see something on the flower. What is that? Next. And that is, of course, a praying mantis doing what she does best. And she's hunting up there. I see it's another female. Females need protein to produce those egg masses. So she's going to be hunting bees. Valley carpenter bee is a little big for her, but honeybees aren't.
And the butterfly.
And of course, the butterflies. Next, please.
So in conclusion, RLC has a wonderful botanical garden.
Insects make it more wonderful.
And thanks for your time. Guess with that, we will open to questions.
Thank you both. That was fascinating. And I have one question. Were you really eating bugs?
No.
Ah.
Couldn't find enough to cook up, but it'd be interesting because it's a very common hors d'oeuvre. There's a delicacy in Mexico, apparently, what we've read. And well, no, we had little cheese crackers here.
Okay. And you don't eat the grasshoppers? I mean, a lot of places people eat grasshoppers.
They do.
Yeah.
There was something on TV recently about insects as a protein source, and a lot of places are starting out now with crickets. We know that we have them in the pet trade for reptiles, but for humans, crickets being raised under sterile conditions is becoming a big thing. Yeah.
Well, environmentally, it is the right thing to do. But
Yes.
yeah, we do have our problems with it, but I might be willing to try it one time.
I've eaten crickets. I've eaten termites. I've been to different meetings. The Lorquin Entomological Society had somebody that came in and did that once. And the termite peel-off was pretty good because you couldn't really see these termites in among the grains of rice. So that was more edible.
We can't hear.
All right, just a reminder, we have the chat available if you have any questions. And then we have also the Q&A function, or if you want to raise your hand, we can monitor all of those. We might just have everyone so blown away with all of the amazing information that you've shared that we don't have questions. I'll check our YouTube chat as well. So the good thing is that our presenters are Rancho volunteers. So if you think of a question, I know they're at the Rancho all the time. So you can ask them, or now you know that if you have a question about an insect that you see while you're on site, Donald and Larry will probably know all about it.
Okay, well, it doesn't look like we have a lot of questions, so I think we can wrap this up. Thank you again so much. This is wonderful. And like I said, I think we're going to notice that a lot of people are going to be tuning in. A lot of people told me that they couldn't be here, but they were definitely going to be watching it. And
Yeah,
yes.
sorry. We talked about Zoom changing. There were a couple questions in the
Oh, you
Q&A.
found them. Oh,
Oh.
okay.
Yes, sorry. Sorry, everyone. They changed the layout.
Oh,
So we had one question that was saying, when I had people asking about the stink bugs, they ask what do they stink like and what are the chemicals that they have in them that make them stink and is it harmful?
they often have like a sweet kind of smell. I think they have ketones, aldehydes, some things we learned about in chemistry, kind of some volatile, stinky, smelly. I mean, some people don't mind it, and it might be burning sensation for some
Well,
things,
could be. They're stinky to me. I don't, you know,
but it's
I
like
have had it on me because I'll handle these insects and it's not real pleasant, but it's not overly powering. But if you go to eat it, I think
no.
that's going to be bad. And it's one of those things again, if a lizard or a bird or maybe even a rodent should eat one of these, they'll probably say never again.
You could gently pick one up and induce it to
Yeah.
put out its chemical, and it wouldn't hurt you. You get a firsthand
Some of these
account of the
things,
smell.
they don't wash off real well, even with soap and good scrubbing. They'll kind of permeate the skin a little bit. So just as a warning.
Yeah, good to know.
Yeah.
We also had someone asking, what is the status with backyard citrus? So I'm not sure if that was pertaining
With insects?
to
Well,
insects.
there are some viral diseases that are being transmitted by certain types of leaf hoppers. And I know the city of Long Beach, you can't go to a nursery and buy a citrus tree right now. They're monitoring the city, the state of California they're seeing if there's any, well, there's a couple of different problems now with citrus. You have the virus disease transmitted by an insect that's feeding on the citrus, and it causes the tree to just slowly decline, the fruit not to ripen properly. It kind of is a greening of the fruit. And then there's a fairly new fungus that gets on citrus and causes more of a browning and a just discoloration of the fruit. In both cases, the fruit is still edible and still tastes fine. It just doesn't look good for commercial purposes.
All right, thank you. Someone asked, what is the difference between insects and bugs?
So insects is the broad term, the whole group. The public calls all of them bugs, but within insects, there are a separate group called the true bugs, right? The Hemiptera
The Hemiptera.
are true bugs,
Mhm.
and everything else is not a bug in the insect world. So it's just a colloquial term. Everyone uses it, but there are distinct families of insects that are bugs.
All right, I don't see any more questions. There's a lot of people thanking you in the chat, saying wonderful presentation and thank you. Noting the humor in. I'm not sure exactly when that one came in. It might have been with the pretending to eat the stink bug. But I think now we could say we have addressed the questions. And again, like if anything else comes up, I'm sure Donald and Larry would be happy to chat insects with you at another time as well.
Thank you.
Yes, you
Thank
can
you. We
find them.
enjoyed it.
You can find them both at the Rancho on Friday afternoons. So, all right. Did we answer the questions? Are we ready to call it a wrap? Thank you very much, gentlemen, and I'll see you and everybody else around the Rancho soon. Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Thank you.